he would take them somewhere special on that day and tell them how much he loved them. And he would never let his parents see them. Ever. Miles swore never to expose them to his father's cruelty and his mother's indifference. He hoped the woman he wed would have nice parents. They would be his children's grandparents, not the Duke and Duchess of Winslow. As far as Miles was concerned, the two of them could fawn over Ralph as much as they wanted. He and Tony would make separate lives, far away from the pair. Leaving the window, he washed and changed into his clothes for the day. Heading to the schoolroom, he found Tony already there. A maid entered, bringing in a tray, and the boys breakfasted in peace, thanks to Ralph dining downstairs with their father. That had started a few weeks ago when Ralph turned 13. The Duke had said Ralph was becoming a man and would take all his meals downstairs. Ralph had taunted his younger brothers, laughing at how privileged he now was. Miles and Tony had merely shrugged and proceeded to enjoy their meals for the first time in their lives, without Ralph's constant taunting and badgering. "You going to have a cake?" Tony asked. "For your birthday?" "Yes. Cookie's making a special one for me," he shared with his little brother. "She remembers every year." Left unsaid was how their parents would ignore Miles's special day. Tony looked at Miles with undisguised devotion. "Do you feel older being 10? That's such a long way off," he said forlornly. "I don't feel a bit different than when I was 9, but I plan to act as if I do." Tony's eyes widened. "Do you mean to say that to Ralph?" he asked anxiously. "I may," he said. "You know he doesn't like you, Miles. Or me," Tony said mournfully. "Well, we don't like him either, do we?" "No," Tony said resolutely. "We don't. He's mean to us. He broke a vase yesterday and told a maid I did it." "Were you punished?" Miles asked quickly. "Why didn't you tell me about it?" Tony shrugged. "You always stand up for me. I wanted to take the punishment." "You shouldn't do that." "Especially when you hadn't done anything wrong." "I wasn't punished," his brother said. "Once Ralph left, the maid swept up the pieces and told me she would throw them away. She promised not to tell anyone." Tony bit his lip. "I think she knew I hadn't broken it." Miles was certain the servants knew exactly what Ralph was like, and appreciated that Tony hadn't been blamed for the broken vase. He only hoped Ralph wouldn't discover what had occurred. If he did, his brother would seek the maid out and blame her for the breakage and demand that she lose her position. It had happened before. "Rub your bottom when you next see Ralph," he suggested. "Wince a little, as if you're in pain. Make him think you're so sore you can't sit down." Tony's eyes lit up. "You want me to act as if I were punished?" "Yes, can you do that?" His brother nodded solemnly. "Good. Finish your breakfast. We'll go riding after if you'd like." Tony shoved the rest of his food into his mouth and chewed quickly. Miles knew how much Tony enjoyed riding because he also enjoyed it more than any other activity. Being on a horse meant freedom. Being away from the house, away from Ralph, who only tolerated riding and rarely chose to climb atop a horse. The boys went to the stables, where a groom saddled ponies for both of them, and then accompanied them across the estate. They rode for almost 2 hours, waving at tenants and taking a break to walk their horses through the forest so they could water them at a nearby stream. When they returned to the house, Ralph was waiting for them, his arms crossed over his chest and a surly look upon his face. He seemed to resent any fun his brothers had, especially if they did so together, even though he never chose to spend time with them himself. "Father wants to see you in his study," he told them. "Why?" asked a panic-stricken Tony, who looked to Miles for reassurance. Miles couldn't help but wonder if this was in regard to the broken vase. When Tony started to speak, Miles shook his head subtly, causing his brother to clamp his lips together. "Come with me," Ralph insisted, leading the way through the kitchens. As they passed Cook, she gave him a conspiratorial smile and pointed. His eyes flicked